Einen schönen guten Morgen und herzlich willkommen zur heutigen Session unserer Smartees Webinar-Reihe mit dem Titel Turning Insights into Impact. Kurz zu mir, mein Name ist Niklas Haider, gebürtig bin ich aus Siegen in Nordrhein-Westfalen und ich arbeite bei Insights Consulting als Senior Research Consultant im Bereich der quantitativen Marktforschung, vorwiegend für internationale Unternehmen im Automobil-, Technologie- und Dienstleistungsbereich. In Deutschland sind das derzeit beispielsweise die Rabobank, Deutsche Bank, Mercedes-Benz und die TUI Group. Ähm, und mit der Eröffnung unseres deutschen Büros in Düsseldorf hoffentlich auch noch viele weitere Unternehmen. Unser heutiger Redner ist Tom De Ruyck, Managing Partner bei Insights Consulting, und Tom wird Ihnen in seinem Vortrag darlegen, wie Insights Wirkungskraft entfalten können, beziehungsweise ganz praktisch betrachtet, wie Sie in Ihrem Unternehmen Routinen für die Arbeit mit Insights implementieren können und diese zum Wohl Ihres Unternehmens nutzbar zu machen. Falls Sie während des Vortrags von Tom Fragen haben, können Sie die jederzeit links in der Chatbox loswerden. Auf alle Fragen, die sich dort während des Vortrags sammeln, werden wir nach dem Vortrag dann gerne eingehen. Okay, nun wünsche ich Ihnen allen 50 inspirierende Minuten und gebe das Wort weiter an Tom. Tom, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Nicholas, and also to everybody listening, a very warm welcome from my side. So indeed, a presentation, a webinar on increasing the return on insights or the return on investment of market research. Because that's a topic we talk about quite a lot. I think it's one of the things that keeps every market researcher awake during the night time. And because it's such an important topic, we thought, well, let's do some research around it. So we started doing a piece of research, qualitative and quantitative, with Greenbook and Gen2 advisors as our partners, amongst the buyers and users of market research. So a big qual and quant study to investigate how do we look at research and the impact it has on business amongst the people that use research within organizations on a daily basis and that buy research on a daily basis. We interviewed quantitatively 185 users and buyers, and we did in-depth interviews with 20 CM managers of global organizations. What I will do first during this webinar is share with you 3 striking findings of this piece of research. First of all, we saw in our study that 28%, only 28% of the people we surveyed said that they think they spent enough on market research. So most of us believe that if we would have more money to spend on research, we would have more impact. So they believe that money is the main problem, or the lack of budget is the main problem when turning insights into impact. Although, if we look at what we found in the qualitative bit of our study, and if we look at what the Boston Consulting Group already said in 2009, there is no real correlation between the money that you spent on research and the quality of the insights and the impact the insights have on business. It's more on how you spend your money and how afterwards you bring the insights into the organization. That's what creates the impact. So money is not the issue. That's the first conclusion that we had after our study. Because we already spent quite some money on market research. If we look at the SMR numbers, we spent annually more than $43 billion on market research. If we then look at our survey, we see that the buyers and users of research say of all the money that we spent on research, only half of that, 54%, will have a true impact on the business. So only half of the money that we spent on research has an impact on business. That's what the people who use it on a day-to-day basis and who buy it on a day-to-day basis say. If we then look at the qualitative study, it's almost that people say that it's like the situation in advertising. We don't really know upfront which pieces of research with insights will have a true impact on the business and which ones will not. So just like in advertising, half of the money that we spend on research is wasted. The trouble is we just don't know which half. So we are a little bit in some kind of casino world. We bet on what could possibly have an impact on business. What can we do to get out of this situation? Well, out of the qualitative interviews, we clearly saw that we need to spend more time in the beginning in talking with the people in the business about what their needs are, what type of consumer dialogues, what type of consumer insights they need. And we also need to spend more time and effort after the research is done, being on how are we going to bring the insights to life within the organization. Actually, most of the CMI managers we interviewed said we spend now 10% at the beginning to understand the business issue. We spend 70% of our time and efforts in doing the research and bringing the insights to the table, and we only spend then 20% on really activating the insights within the business. And they all agreed almost that probably going to 1/3 of the time to understand the business better, 1/3 of the time and the efforts and the money to research, another third of the available resources to activate the insights would be a better deviation of time, money, and efforts. So that's conclusion number 2. Conclusion number 3 is or fact number 3 is around to what extent do people in business need consumer insights these days? Because you could argue that in a world where information is abundant, that people don't need that much insights anymore coming from classical market research, which is not true. If we look at the survey results, if we look at the results of the qualitative part of this study, everybody says that people in businesses that are in true transformation nowadays, need more than ever guidance, need more than ever an understanding of the complex consumer world, need more than ever consumer insights in order to keep on understanding the world out there, in order also to be able to differentiate themselves from the pack in this day and age. So, 3 very important conclusions I think that we can draw from the study on the impact that research is having on business that we did. The first one is it's not about how much budget you spend on research, it's how you spend it and how you and what you do with it that is the most important thing. That's what creates the impact, what insights you bring to the table and how you communicate them into the business. Secondly, we also saw that it's about thinking more carefully upfront, what insights do we need, and afterwards thinking creatively and also spending enough resources on communicating those insights into the business. And thirdly, for sure there is a demand for consumer insights even more than ever, and I even think that we as researchers are in the position to help out our companies that are in transformation to do everything they can to be different and to survive in this age of disruption. So actually market researchers are in a pretty good position if you look at the future. And that's also what Stans de Nunetan, the Senior Vice President CMI of Unilever, has said at SMR Congress 2015, but he has repeated it many times at different events around the world. We as researchers need to provide provocation and inspiration to the business. The type of provocation and inspiration that drives transformation and actions that lead to growth. So that's the role of market research. We are not there just to do research. We are not there just to bring insights to the table. No, it needs to be the right insights, the insights that will transform the business, and we need to inspire people in the business and provoke them so that they are going to take action. We need to activate the insights within the business. And that's, I think, the new role of CMI. It's beyond just doing research. It's doing the right research, it's bringing the right insights to the table, it's activating those insights into the business. And I think that's a nice conclusion of the big study that we have conducted. So how can we now act upon what we just learned? Well, I will share with you a couple of frameworks, a couple of ideas around how you can get more out of your individual research project. So when you do one particular research project, how can you leverage the insights better into the organization? And I will also discuss how you can think more strategically about insight management within your organization. But let's first tackle how to get more impact from one individual research project that you do. Actually, at Insights, we use a three-step approach to communicate insights into a business. We call that approach engage, inspire, activate. Engage is all about what you do before the presentation. Inspire is what you do during the presentation or workshop and how you bring the insights to the table and how you bring them to life. And activate is about what you do after a workshop or presentation to keep on reminding people about what they have learned and to make sure that they turn those learnings into true action. Let's start with the pre-phase, the engage phase. Actually, this is all about engaging the people that you are going to present to or that you are going to have a workshop with very early on. Engage them when you are writing up the briefing to make sure that the right insights will come to the table, the relevant and actionable insights come to the table, but also engage them while you're actually doing your fieldwork. And tease them before your presentation to make sure that they are warmed up and that they're really curious about what you are going to present. And it's about that last phase that I want to share with you a couple of examples. One of the things that we do, amongst others, is hanging up very striking numbers or thought-provoking quotes from consumers in the premises of the company. So that when people walk around, they almost see some kind of marketing campaign in the office for the research results. And it are the research results that make them think, that make them wonder, that make them curious. A more advanced way of doing this and doing this teasing and creating this curiosity is organizing a little quiz. A quiz in which you ask them questions about the insights that you will present them during the workshop. So typically we have 10 questions about those insights. People take those questions and immediately after each question they see if they are right or wrong. And in most cases it's a consumer who tells them if they were right or wrong by sharing a quote or having a consumer talking to them in a video. What do we create here by having such a quiz? Well, first of all, we test the knowledge that people already have about the topic. We can use that information, knowing what they already know, what they don't know, to tweak our presentation and to make the presentation more relevant. But we also confront them for the first time with the insights, which makes them think, which is activating, let's say, their brain. We confront them with their own knowledge or the lack of knowledge because we give them a score at the end and we always make that people score between a 4 and a 6 out of 10, which makes them not totally depressed about how they what they know about around the subject, but which also makes them a little bit uncomfortable, and that's an ideal position to get people in a workshop or in a presentation. Last but not least, it's also a first confrontation with what people think, what consumers think. So you confront them with their own knowledge, you confront them with consumers, and you confront them with your findings. And actually you tease them, you warm them up, you make them curious. And that's how we want people to be in our workshop. Totally warmed up, totally already into the subject. Then they are ready for an inspire phase, and if possible we take the time to do not only a presentation but also a workshop. A workshop where people get the time to play with the data and where they get the time to discuss the data. Because we see in scientific literature that if you want people to act upon something you present them, actually it's important to share with them, let's say, the ins and the outs and the essence of your findings, but also that you let them play with the data themselves to discover some elements themselves, and that you let them discuss what they have found amongst each other. And that we also see in scientific literature that those two last elements, the social element and the playing with the data yourself, are what makes that people actually are going to act upon it. And that are two things that we sometimes forget to do in lots of our presentations or lots of our workshops. So if you have 1 hour the time to present something, we tend to spend only 20 minutes on presenting the essence, present 20 minutes on letting them discover the data themselves or the qualitative data themselves. It can be in a dashboard, that can be by letting them go through observations and quotes from consumers themselves, and then spending 20 minutes on effectively go through a discussion about the findings. And doing that really makes that you have more impact. What you see, by the way, on the screen is the alternative for a quantitative dashboard. It's a qualitative kind of interactive infographic that allows people, in this case of Heineken, to go through lots of insights we have collected around nightlife. And the last phase is around activating the insights within the organization, making sure that people will remember the insights and that they will act upon it. One of the things we did for a project we did for MTV Networks, the television station, was that we collected lots of insights around Gen Y in big cities, so urban millennials and how they live and what their behavior is, and also where they shop, where they eat, what they tend to do in their spare time. And actually for the senior executives of MTV, in order to let them be immersed into those insights more continuously, to remember them about the insights and to activate them to take action, what we did was creating city guides for all of the cities we did the research in, with like user-generated tips around where to go shopping, where to eat, where to hang out, what to do during the weekend. So that when those senior executives of MTV were traveling for business, that they would go to the places where actually their target group was hanging out, so that they would be confronted with the insights and that they would literally be inspired to take action as well. And it really worked, because we got the feedback from some senior executives like this mate that was almost experiencing an insight, and it triggered so many ideas in my head. So on a project level, what can you do to have more impact? Well, use 3 steps: engage, inspire, activate. Engage is all about engaging your audience within creating the briefing, while doing the fieldwork, and teasing them before actually you're going to present. Make them curious, warm them up. One of the techniques you could use is hanging up posters with confronting quotes, or you could do a quiz like we just discussed. Then there's the inspire phase, where I think the main tip is spend more time on letting them play with the data and on letting them discuss the data. So talk less yourself, only share the essence, and make every presentation also something which is social and playful and experiential. And when it comes to activating the insights, give what you have shared in terms of insights and discussed and played with in terms of insights during the presentation or the workshop an afterlife by finding a way to remember them about what they have learned and trigger their mind also continuously to take action upon the learnings. That's what you can do for every single project, and that's what we also advise our clients to do, to have more impact with one research project. But I think that will not be enough. You also need to have a strategy across projects. You need to start to think more strategically about insights management within your organization if you really want to have the big impact on business and if you really want to make happen what Stan talks about in his quote. We also discussed this in the qualitative interviews with the different CMI managers that we talked to, and we actually came to three things that are necessary if you truly want to create a culture of insights within your organization. Number one is that every business person, every marketing person truly needs to understand what is an insight. What can be the power of a consumer insight when I start to using this in my day-to-day work? If people don't understand this, it will be very hard to actually be that inspirator and thought provoker within the business. Secondly, as a CMI team, as a CMI and a research department, you and we need to think about how are we going to let insights flow? How are we going to make insights available within our organization? And how are we going to make that literally people start to use those insights in their day-to-day work? And thirdly, last but not least, we also need to think about how are we going to make it a habit? How are we going to make sure that everyone in the business is using consumer insights on a day-to-day basis? So it's moving from educating the people in the business on what insights are and how powerful they can be towards having an ideal way of bringing the insights to the people when they need it and making sure that they are into the right mindset to use them actively in their day-to-day work, towards really making this business as usual and making a habit that people use consumer insights while making their business plans, while making decisions. For the rest of the webinar, I'm going to talk about these three aspects. First, we are going to tackle what is an insight, what's the power of an insight, and educating the organization around this. Because if you would go to some of your marketing people or some of the managers in your business and you would ask them that question, what is actually a consumer insight? Well, probably most of them will not give you a good definition. They will start to talk about probably all the data that they have, all the observations that they see when they walk into the world on a day-to-day basis. They will probably also talk about the ideas that they have, but I think none of them will give you a clear and good and correct definition of an insight. And if you would ask them, what can an insight do for you? I think most of them will also not really talk about the true value it can bring to a business. What we do for businesses is educating them around what an insight is and how they can use it in their day-to-day work to let their brands and companies grow. And we also have a clear definition about what an insight is. And we use the formula you see right now on the screen. It has three main components. It's me, aha, and passion or emotion. And if those three comes together, we can unlock business growth. So I will share with you now our formula around insights and go over each component. So the first element is it's me. It's something that is recognizable and relevant for consumers. It's a true consumer. It has a consumer action, behavioral element in it. It's also something, if you see it, if you hear about it as a marketing or a business person, that you recognize yourself as a consumer. An example is Oreo. And if you ask someone how they eat an Oreo cookie, they will all tell you, well, I twist it. Some of them even then do the licking part for the white cream. And some of them even do the dunking in a hot drink. And this twist, lick, dunk kind of thing is something that comes from consumer research. It's observational research that has been done to discover this. But this kind of twist like dunk thing comes back in a lot of Oreo communication. And why is that communication then so powerful? Because, of course, of the recognizability. Consumers recognize themselves in this. Then the second element of the formula is the aha. It's about discovering something new about the consumer world, or it's a new way of looking at something you already knew in a different context, for example. An example here is the world of vacuum cleaners. At a certain moment, actually in more qualitative research, they discovered at a vacuum cleaning company that people don't like to clean on the one hand, and secondly, when they have their cleaning, they're always looking for some kind of reward. They are doing things like going with their finger over the ground floor to see if it's really clean. And if it's clean, that's the reward for them that they have done a great job. Or they want their family, their friends coming into the room and say, wow, it looks really clean here. Well done. So they're looking for that kind of recognition. They are looking for that kind of reward. So they were thinking, how can we create a product or design a product in a way that they also have that same feeling without them going with their finger over the floor, without the need to have that social confirmation. And that's how they came to the idea to create actually a transparent dust box so that you could see what you have done, that you could see all the dust that you have taken out of the floor and out of the room. So this is an example of how this aha moment, actually something they discovered in the consumer world by doing research, actually changed a whole product category. Because if you go to an electronics shop now, you will see that every vacuum cleaner has now a transparent dustbin box. The last element is around the emotion, the passion. Consumers will also have very extreme emotions sometimes about their wishes, about their frustrations. And that bit in an insight is what makes also that if you see that as a business person, that makes you feel passionate about the problem or about the opportunity and gives you that feeling that you almost want to take action immediately. So the three components are really important. It's important that it's actually something that is relevant to consumers and that you as a consumer yourself, as a business person, recognize. It's important that there is that aha, that kind of light bulb that pops up above your head. It's also important, finally, that there is that emotion coming from the consumer and that there's that passion that you feel as a business person yourself. If those three components are there, you have a good insight. And you have an insight that actually is also applicable to business, because that's what is also very important. That insight needs to be applicable to your communication efforts, to your innovation streams, to your general strategy. Only then you have a good insight. You can have a great insight, but that is not applicable to your business. It can be applicable to another type of business, but it's not to your business. Well, then you cannot speak of a great insight. So that's actually what we do for lots of companies. We train them in how to get to a good insight, how to write up a good insight, but especially what is a good insight, how can you discover it, how can you recognize it, and how can you make it something that is applicable to your business, and how can a good insight turn around your business. And we also tell them that actually not every piece of research has necessarily an insight. So you need to gather different pieces of research, connect the dots to come to a good insight. And in most cases, you only have a handful of really powerful insights every year. But it's those insights that you need to activate within the business, and people in the business need to understand how powerful good insights can be for them. So we have training programs around that to bring that into your company and to educate your company around that. So that's almost the basis. If people in your business don't understand what an insight is and how to use it and how powerful it could be, it's very difficult to think more strategically about consumer insights. So that's the first step we believe you need to take. The second step is about how you are going to let insights flow within your business. And when we say letting insights flow within your business, we think about two elements: mental flow and physical flow. And mental flow is really bringing the people within the company into the right context and mindset to really use the insights that you offer them. And the physical flow of insights is literally finding a way to distribute the insights to as many people possible within the organization, and to make sure that they have the right insights at the moment that they need them. Let's first talk about mental flow of insights. If we look at how you bring people into the right mental flow, it's about two things. If you look at literature, it's about giving people enough knowledge about what they need to do, and it's about constantly challenging people to use that knowledge and bring that knowledge into practice. I think the knowledge part, we tackled that with the first chapter, being that people know what an insight is, that they know how to use it. If you don't have that, you can never bring them into the mental flow. But then we have the second element, which is about challenging them, poking them almost continuously at various moments to use their knowledge. And actually here we see a role for CMI managers. For CMI managers to be that challenger in meetings. For CMI managers to actually share content around consumers, important facts, figures, and insights also outside of those meetings, by actually hanging up those posters in the company premises, by sending out newsletters around what happens in the consumer world. So it's almost like creating a content marketing plan where you have different touch points others than the classical presentations that you have, to make sure not only that people have the knowledge, but that they use their knowledge constantly, and that it goes beyond just the presentation moments that you have with them. So that's a very important one if we want to create mental flow. Then let's think about the physical flow of insights, because we have quite a problem there. Because if we think about the life of an insight, actually what we do is we spend lots of time and efforts and money on doing great research, on doing great analysis, on trying to write up great insights according to the that we just saw. But what we then do is, when we have those insights, we present them once and we lock them up in PowerPoint reports. We present them once and we spend not enough time on discussing them. We spend not enough time on bringing the insights to life and making sure that people can add their own thinking, their own observations to it. And we spend not enough time on triggering people to take action upon the insights that we shared. And that's, I think, what we need to do more. Therefore, we see actually that throughout the research process, there is an importance for the work of CMI managers to bring insights to the table at the right time, at the right moment. For example, in a preface of doing research, so before you are actually going to do a new piece of research, it can be important to harvest the insights that are already there around the subject. From previous research studies, from previous presentations, but also look at what are the insights that are in people's heads, what are also the assumptions and the hypotheses they already have. By doing that, by doing this harvesting exercise of what is already there in terms of insights in people's heads and in reports, we get a far better view on what is already known, what is unknown, and we can use that information to make the study that we are about to do more relevant, that we are asking the questions about the right things, that we will come up actually with the insights that really matter and that are really useful and actionable. And by doing that, we can almost engineer a new study to be impactful and surprising afterwards. We have done an experiment around this with Telefonica in the UK, where we actually used this technique to co-create a briefing with more than 30 internal stakeholders. And we also had creating a briefing for a study the traditional way with the three main stakeholders. Our conclusion was that when we then looked at um, the the topic guide for the qualitative part of the study that was created based on these two briefings, that the co-created briefing led to a topic guide that was 50% different than the topic guide that was created based on the briefing coming from only the three main stakeholders. And if you look to those topic guides, you see that if we work together with 30 people, we are not asking questions about what is actually already known by most people. We are not asking questions about things that people are not going to act upon in any way. And you see that we are asking questions that in the other topic guides are not even raised. So you see how important it can be to almost co-create a briefing to harvest what is already there, what is already known, what is already there in reports, but also in the heads of people. And especially the last element is really very important as well. So that's the first way of letting insights flow, recycling insights to some extent. Then we have the live phase. During the field work, already sharing observations and meaningful facts and figures that will lead to an insight. We have seen that if we do that with many clients, we have seen that the insights afterwards will come more to life and will be acted upon much faster, much quicker, because people have already seen the ingredients of the insights, and then when they see the insight, it's almost like, yes, of course, that kind of feeling, rather than in a classical presentation, you confront them with that insights like for the very first time, and then you need to explain it a couple of times before it really starts to come alive and starts to become memorable. So here already sharing the ingredients of the insights you're going to share upfront while even doing the field work makes that the insights will become more impactful. So the harvest phase is really about finding the relevant insights. The live phase is about making the insights more relevant. Then in the next phase, it's about when you have done a project and you have shared the insights, making sure that people are going to act upon the insights and are going to turn it into actions and internal projects. And here we see that it's pretty important that you bring together a larger group of people from different teams within the organization to brainstorm with each other and to ideate with each other, also outside of the 2-hour meeting and outside of the group of 10 people that normally are in that meeting. It's the having that diverse group and having more time to ideate with each other that leads in most cases to 75% additional insights, additional ideas, excuse me, based on the insights. Then we also have immersion into the consumer worlds across different projects. Here I can give you an example of how for MasterCard we did different studies, qual and quant, that led to a segmentation of 6 segments that they identify among their customers. So different studies were brought together to create a segmentation and to create personas. But then it's about how are you going to bring this alive? How are you going to let the whole organization immerse into the world of those 6 segments, of those 6 personas? So here we created six personas for those six segments, and we brought those six personas to life by having all kind of insights around those and by having all kind of exercises for the people in the organization to literally immerse into the world of the personas of the segments and to literally immerse into the insights as well. So this is really around bringing insights that really have a strategic kind of goal to life. An archive is the last phase. It's about creating an archive of all the insights you ever collected and making that available to everyone every time. So harvest is about how to make your insights more relevant, the insights that you are going to find in your research by knowing what's already known and not known and what the assumptions are, what the hypotheses are. Life is about making the insights more memorable by sharing during the fieldwork already the ingredients. Project is around turning insights into immediate actions and next steps. Immersion is for more strategic projects, doing a deep dive into the world of the customer, into certain insights to really inspire the long-term strategy. And archive is to create literally an inventory of all the insights that you have and making it available for people when they need it. So when you are in a meeting, that you can find immediate kind of inspiration there. That's what you should do in terms of physical flow, and we have created a piece of software that can help you to do all of these 5 things and to facilitate you in making that happen within your organization, and that's our Insight Activation Studio. It's a collaborative social platform that helps you to, in every phase of the research process, activate insights, bring insights to life, and maximize the impact that insights can have on your business. So, if we look at the steps that we have seen until now in terms of strategic insights management, we talked about education as a first step. You need to learn people in business, marketing people, managers, what is an insight. You need to teach them about that. They need to understand what the power of an insight can be. And what works there is give them the theory, but also let them practice with real data and also show them how other companies have created growth and have grasped new opportunities by using consumer insights. Look maybe at the own history of the company to see what was a success, what was a failure, and what was the role of insights in there, or what could we have prevented a failure if we had had the right insights. So really educate them around what is an insight and how powerful it could be. First step. Secondly, think about the mental and physical flow of insights within your organization, where the mental flow is about constantly triggering them to use the knowledge that they have around insights, to use the insights that you share with them. And there you need to think about being that challenger in meetings, but also having some kind of content marketing program where you share insights and stories from the consumer world also outside of the meeting rooms, and where you find creative ways like we saw in the first part of the webinar around engage, inspire, activate, to really make sure that also outside of the classical meeting room, outside of the classical presentation, those people are challenged to really think about the consumer world and to use consumer insights. And then we also talked about mental flow of how you can make insights more relevant, more memorable, more actionable, and more being used in every part of the research process, and how you can literally distribute insights very quickly throughout your whole organization. And then the last part is really what really makes that you can create a culture of insights. It's making working with insights a habit within your organization, so that you don't need a research project where you bring the insights to them to let them work with insights. You don't need that only that content marketing program anymore to constantly challenge them and poke them to work with insights. No, after a while, it should become a true habit. It should become something that is business as usual and that everyone within the organization is actually doing. And also here we help our clients with installing those habits within an organization. So we help our clients with educating their organization. We help them with software to have an optimal flow of insights within their organization, but we also help them with installing habits. We first look at what are the habits that you want your people to have. Then we'll look at how can we create and install those habits and almost train people to do this on a day-to-day basis. One of the habits we already have installed at some organizations is that after each presentation, everyone need to come up with at least one thing they are going to do differently based on the insights that they just saw. So they need to commit to at least one action. You see that in the beginning, this is something that you need to remind them about. It's something that goes not very fluently, but after a while, everyone during the presentation will already start to think what is that one thing that at the end of the presentation I'm going to commit to do differently. And you can think about those type of small habits in briefing moments, during field work, after a presentation, when they are in a meeting to make a decision, because there it could also become a habit to think before you make a decision, what would the consumer think of the decision we are taking here? And that's the trigger to look into the archive of insights to see what would the consumer indeed do, or take the phone and call you as a CMI manager. So that's what this last bit is about. So this was the content of the webinar. I think if you need to take 3 things away from this webinar, it's first of all, from the big study on the impact of research that we did, that you need to think more carefully about how you spend your time as a CMI manager. So do you spend all your time and also all your resources on doing the research? Or should we spend more time and effort on being part of the business, having that dialogue with the business to know which insights they actually need? And should we also spend more time and effort on bringing the insights to the business and communicating them in a different way, activating them in a different way? And I think the answer is yes. Secondly, I think on a project level, you need to think about how you can also do something before the presentation or workshop, something after the presentation or workshop, to engage them up front, to activate them afterwards. And we should think more carefully about how we give presentations, how we do workshops, where we should talk less and let them discuss more and play more also with the data. And thirdly, I think it's about thinking about how we can create a true culture of insights, where it's about educating our internal crowds, it's about creating an optimal flow for insights within our organization, and last but not least, think about what are the habits we want to install at different moments, and how can we then create those habits within our organization. And if we can do all of that, I think CMI managers and research managers within an organization are in pole position to lead the change within their companies, and to help their companies to truly transform and to stay successful also in the age of disruption. Thank you very much for listening. If there are questions, I'm happy to answer a couple of them right now. But if you have questions afterwards, feel free to drop us an email, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Don't see any questions coming up right now, so I would say vielen Dank für Ihren Aufmerksamkeit und vielleicht bis nächste Woche auf Research and Results.